Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm Toria Lessman, Senior Vice President, Underwriting Leader at QBE North America. I'm joined today by my teammate, Danielle Floyd, Assistant Vice President, Underwriting Leader. Danielle is a tax attorney and an expert on tax issues in reps and warranties insurance policies. Thanks for joining us today, Danielle.
Thank you, Toria.
So turning to reps and warranties insurance, what are some new tax laws that are having an impact on the insurance?
One thing we've seen a lot of in the past year has been the impact of the partnership tax audit rules, which are effective for all partnership tax audits starting in 2018. So in the past, when we would have a rep and warranty policy involving a partnership, we wouldn't focus as much on the historical income tax liabilities because it would pass through to the partners and not hit at the partnership level. Now, due diligence concerns and indemnity obligations for historical income tax liabilities need to be considered in connection with partnerships. For example, one thing to look at is whether the agreement requires a push-out election. If a push-out election is made, then the historical income tax liabilities will be pushed out to the partners, as it was in the past. If the agreement is silent to the push-out election, or lets the parties make a choice whether or not to make the election, the parties may have an incentive not to make the election and let the historical income tax liabilities hit at the partnership level instead of the partners, and then look to the policy for any coverage. So another thing that we've seen a lot this past year has been the impact of the Wayfair decision that came out in June of 2018, which overturned the longstanding rule that you had to have physical presence to establish sales and use tax nexus. Most states have started releasing guidance implementing the impact of the Wayfair decision, but it really varies from state to state. So some states will require you to have a certain amount of transactions, whereas other states will require you to have a certain amount of revenue. But you have to look at each individual state to determine whether or not you've established sales and use tax nexus in that state.
So Danielle, during the underwriting process, what are some tax issues that you've seen come up?
Well, going back to sales and use tax and the Wayfair decision, sometimes we'll find that once we get through the process, we learn that the target hasn't performed an exit study, which basically says where you're supposed to be filing taxes.
Okay.
If the target hasn't completed an exit study, they might have exposure in certain states that they haven't been filing because they may have sales and use tax nexus, especially when you consider the impact of the Wayfair decision. We also have a lot of targets that are taxed as S corporations, and during the underwriting process, we might find that they might not be able to locate their originally filed S corp election or the IRS acceptance. Now, that may or may not be an issue. It just kind of depends on the whole facts, depending on how long the S corporation has been around or if it has any other issues with the other S corp requirements, like second class of stock issues or eligible shareholder issues. It really just varies. So you have to really dig into the process and figure it out.
Well, Danielle, this feels like a good place to put a bookmark in our conversation. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Toria. I look forward to continuing our conversation.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm Toria Lessman, Senior Vice President, Underwriting Leader with QBE North America's Transactional Liability Practice.